Welcome back, my beloveds, to the Nissim Black Show. In today's episode, I want to discuss with you Europe. Not the Europe of baguettes, not Beethoven, but I want to talk to you about the Europe that once thrived under the influence of a Jewish community that was filled with Torah, with moral order, with brilliance. And I want to look at that juxtaposed to what we're seeing today after pushing out the Jews and bringing in all these Arab refugees. This isn't about hate. This is about truth. It's about looking at the facts and looking at the fruit of deciding what type of civilization you want to build. What is it that you want to preserve? And I want to look at that and see if we can zoom in to what's going on here in Israel between the Israelis and the Palestinians, or rather the Arabs and the Jews. However you want to look at it, I think we're going to find fascinating data that's going to show us what's really going on here in Israel. Let's talk about it. Wait, before you get back to the show, I just want to let you know that we have launched NissimBlack.store. All you have to do is go online, order yourself one of these amazing mugs, God is King, with a matching t-shirt. We have a whole plethora of different shirts that are all about representing God wherever you go. As believers in the one true God of Israel, it is our duty not to hide, not to back down, not to shy away from expressing our faith wherever it is that we go. If you want to go and walk righteously before your God with a nice t-shirt, with a nice sweater, with a mug that's reminding us constantly that God is here with us, go to NissimBlack.store and make sure you get yourself some merch. It really helps support this channel and everything that we're doing and everything that we plan to do. And trust me, you don't want to miss it. I thank you all for all of your support. Okay, back to the show. Thank you guys so much again for joining me. I actually want to look at a recent article that was on World Israel News. And the headline reads, it says that Ireland sets to boycott Jewish goods from Judea and Samaria. So many of my listeners who may not be familiar with Judea and Samaria, I'm assuming that you are. These are the biblical terms for this particular territory, I would say, which is known today as the West Bank. Right? So Ireland is saying that they're going to boycott it. Now you have to hear this article because it's very, very interesting, and it's going to lead into what we want to talk about today. So it says Ireland's parliament is expected to bring to a final vote on Tuesday a law that would ban the import of products made in Jewish communities in Judea and Samaria, defining their sale as criminal offense. Why? Because they want to say that according to international law that these territories are illegal, at least illegal to Jews. They're supposed to be illegal to everybody, but particularly they want to pick on the Jews. So it says Samaria Regional Council head Yossi Dagan sent a letter to a series of senior officials in the Trump administration and Congress in which he expressed outrage over the Israeli settlements and prohibition of immigration's goods bill of 2025, which will be the first against the Jews because of their religion and their place of residence since the Holocaust. That means that they are trying to pass a bill. There's never been such a bill like this passed, at least on a government level. There have been many people who have decided, many companies who have decided that they wanted to boycott Israel in some fashion, but to particularly do it here, you'll see why. It says he demanded that the officials impose high tariffs on Ireland in response if the law is approved. So he's saying to basically Trump's administration that if this passes, you have to impose some type of tariffs on these guys, because not only are they violating what the U.S. has put in place, essentially they are violating international law, because this is the first time that a Western state is considering imposing a legal boycott against Jewish products only, without any reference, it says, to Arab factories operating in the same area. So there are Jews and Arabs that both have factories in Judea and Samaria, but this bill that they want to pass is only against the Jewish population, right? So Arabs, they'll still take products from them, but they will not take products from the Jewish, and that's the way it's divided. It's not, basically Israel or anything. It's saying specifically in this territory that we are saying is illegal, right? We will take from Arabs, but we won't take from Jews. So they're being discriminated on their religion, race, however you want to look at it. He said that the bill constitutes a direct violation of human rights. morally and security-wise, and it contradicts, listen to this, the official policy of the U.S. under the Trump administration. What is that policy? That policy is that it recognized in an official declaration that the Judea and Samaria area is not occupied territory, and that the settlement there is legal and does not contradict international law. So for some of you, need to understand that these people that we are calling settlers are religious, I would say zealots in a good way. I'm not talking about violent as contrary to what the media likes to paint them as, but we're talking about the people that actually have gone out of their way to move into this area of this territory, which is the biblical heartland of Israel. This is where Shiloh is. This is where so many things that we actually saw take place in the Bible is right here in this land of Judea and Samaria. This is the biblical heartland of Israel right here. And they moved there to resettle the land. They're not settling, they're resettling the land. And the attempts to hopefully usher in the time of the redemption and to build up Israel, just as it had been written in the prophets, as we already see the influx and the ingathering of the exiles of the Jews are moving back to Israel, that these are the people that have taken upon themselves to go without sometimes even the bare minimums, to go and build in the middle of nowhere in order to be amongst those who are actually resettling and building up the land. So that's who this population is that we're referring to. So according to Dagan, he says that the bill grants a prize to the territory, to the terror of Palestinian Authority, and it harms the peace-loving residents, and it constitutes an integral part of the international boycott policy, BDS, which is a movement that the United States itself has condemned over and over again. Everybody knows the BDS is no friend. So if Ireland passes an official law that boycotts Jews only, listen to this. We're not talking about Israel anymore. This is what I'm trying to tell people. It starts with Israel, then it moves on to the Jews, just like we talked about, Candace, whatever, in the last episode. She started with, critiquing Israel. Many people have left me comments about this and saying, oh, no, she's only talking about the government. They have failed to see that over and over again, that she's spoken about, great rabbis and said that our religion, we worship demons. This is the words that are coming out of her mouth. People are not paying attention. They're only listening to the times that she's actually talking about Israel. So it starts here all the time, and then it leads on to something more deeper and anti-Semitic. So we're talking about here specifically there, a boycott the Jews only, and it will crown itself as an anti-Semitic country. And this will be the first time, again, he says, since the Holocaust that a specific law against the Jews will pass in a European country. A country that becomes anti-Semitic, contrary to the U.S. policy, free world countries cannot overlook this. You cannot overlook this. I call on the United States to impose economic tariffs on any country that supports such anti-Semitic boycotts, Dagan, he wrote, and the U.S. federal anti-boycott laws make it illegal for American companies to comply with foreign government boycott requests targeting Israel. So this, of course, leads into what I wanted to say today. Europe's, it's in for a long haul. And I just want to be honest, Europe is in for a long haul. I want to remind you guys of what was taking place pre-World War II. Pre-World War II, Europe was home to over 9 million Jews. All right, so cities like Warsaw, Berlin, Vienna, Amsterdam, they all had thriving Jewish communities. They weren't ghettos of dysfunction. These were hubs of learning and of business and law, art. There were Jews there that they brought the printing press to Europe. Jews built hospitals. They created symphonies. They were judges, rabbis, financiers, teachers. And even that, the Jewish reputation, they were law-abiding, family-oriented, and intellectual people. We're talking about those in the shtetl and those who even went out. You didn't hear anything about any type of mass crime, any terror cells coming from the Jewish communities. And this is all the while the Jews were under oppression. They were completely oppressed with all the pogroms, constantly exiled from one neighborhood to the next, one city to the next, one country to the next. Even under that oppression, Jews built. That's what they did. And wherever they have gone throughout history, the Jewish people, by and large, we have built up the infrastructure of that company and contributed, as I said, to medicine, finance, the arts, culture. And my question to all of this is, what does Europe do in return? They slaughtered them. They chased them out. They burnt the synagogues. And after the war, and after all the ashes had settled, they were left with ghost towns and all these places that the Jews had built up. You didn't see terrorist groups built up after this. You didn't see infrastructure brought down to its knees at the hands of terror and Jewish militias. You didn't see this, which goes directly against what everybody likes to say. They like to say that if people are oppressed, or if people are under any type of duress from an imposing government, nation, country, tyrant, then of course their natural response is going to be violence, right? That was why the Black Lives Matter protest was okay. That's why precisely we are able to tear down colleges and American infrastructure from college kids who become violent because there's oppression going on thousands of miles away from them, a genocide going on thousands of miles away from them. It's okay because there's oppression. What I'm telling you right now absolutely contradicts that. That's not all people. They were left with ghost town after this. They expelled the Jews. It's finished. It's over. If you were to take those same neighborhoods, those same areas, by and large, most of them, not every single place was built back up. But fast forward to today. There are millions of Arab and Muslim refugees that have flooded into Europe. Talking Syria, Iraq, Somalia, Morocco, Algeria. France now has over 6 million Muslims there. And I'm not taking a hit just on Muslims. I know that what this is going to sound like, I'm just precautioning you that you're about to hear the truth, and I'm not going to sugarcoat anything for you. I don't hate Muslims. I don't hate Arabs. But I have to tell you the truth. Germany took in over 1.2 million Syrians. Sweden, the UK, the Netherlands, all of them have taken in waves and droves of these refugees. But the question for all of us is, what has been the fruit of that? Is it peace? Is it the buildup of culture? Certainly not Western culture. It's definitely culture, but it's not Western culture. Or the question could be, has it been riots? The truth is that Paris today is burning now almost annually. Cologne. And New Year's Eve, hundreds of women were sexually assaulted. Malmö in Sweden once was a quiet place. This was known as a very, very quiet place. Today, it is considered the rape capital of Europe. Knife attacks, terror plots, jihadist recruitment. This is not speculation. These are the facts. This is what's actually happening in Europe. Europe, as we known it, is facing its last days. And I believe wholeheartedly that it's a judgment. It's a judgment from God. You're talking about a place that was flourishing. And even if you go there, there's places that you go. I happen to go to places like Hungary every year. I'm in Ukraine every year, right? So I go to Europe quite often. Beautiful places. I'm saying you're talking miles and miles and miles of greenery. You're talking beautiful fields and infrastructure, all on its way down to the ground. And none of this is speculation. These are facts. This is what's actually happening. I'm talking about the fertilizer for this greenery is Jewish blood. And these mass waves of people who have infiltrated or who have fled. We were sold all of this was, humanitarian salvation. And I honor the motive, at least. But the real question is, what happens to Europe in return? What happens? I want you to examine these statistics for me. I put a few of them together, and I want to go over all of them with you. Hey guys, what's going on? I want to tell you really quickly about an organization here in Ramat Beit Shemesh named Kol Koreh. Kol Koreh is an organization that provides essential support to kids with dyslexia and other learning disabilities. They do everything from making sure that they have personalized lesson plans all the way to advocacy, which is very important. A lot of these kids are falling through the cracks in the regular system, and a lot of them are misdiagnosed. But Kol Koreh, through their assessment, has found that most of the time it's just learning disabilities. Unfortunately, because of the war, people have reallocated their funds to different war efforts and misplaced families, rightfully so. But unfortunately, what it's led to is a lot of these kids falling through the cracks. And now this wonderful organization is at the brink of turning kids away. I would never advocate for something unless I was able to personally tell you how amazing the organization is. I want everybody that can, please go to kolkoreh.org and make a donation. We must keep this organization open and running and being able to service all the families that they service. For a long time, when it comes to organizations, many people have asked me, but unless I know personally that I'm dealing with real people, I would never ask my audience. So again, please make a donation today to Kol Koreh, that's KOLKOREH.org. And I can honestly say that you will be changing lives. Okay, back to the show. So they report in Denmark in 2021 through 2024 that non-Western migrants and their children, about 10.6% of the population, has committed nearly 30% of violent crimes. Think about that. That is 10.6% of the population, which is, amongst these refugees, if we're just going to speak honestly, committed 30% of violent crimes. And that's 32.4% of the rapes from this population. Syrian or Moroccan descents are 15 times more likely to commit violent crimes than the Danish natives. Staggering numbers. France says since 2000, it has 751 sensitive urban zones. They now exist in districts that have weak policing, high crime, and many of all of these are in the Muslim majority suburbs of these areas. Listen to these statistics because it's a telling of everything. There's 77% of rape cases in Paris in 2023 involved these foreign perpetrators. 77%. Reports show that 70% of the French prisoners are Muslim, despite the Muslim only being, listen to this, 8 to 10% of France's population. I mean, these numbers are staggering. If you are not shaking in your boots right now, if you are not observing the truth, and I'm going somewhere with this, I want you to listen to what I'm going to tell you. If you look at Sweden and Germany, Malmö is now today, as I mentioned to you, is called the rape capital. Police data link it to migrant dense areas. This is the problem. Is that you let these people in, they reject your culture, they reject everything in the West, your religion, your culture, your whole entire way that you see the world is completely rejected by these people. They move in because of failed countries that they come from. Which I don't say it's failed. I'm saying that this is the way that they operate countries. It says German police report this is a consistent jihadist terror plots, acid attacks, and radicalization in migrant suburbs. And violence is only one of the stats because knife attacks, they surged in London, Paris, Berlin. Acid attacks more than double in places like Brussels. Polygamy rises. Although it's quiet, it's not always reported. A lot of polygamy. And one that I'm sure would hurt all of us, and we know this to be true, and you don't have to look far from all of this, the amount of pedophilia. 50-year-olds, 60-year-olds, marrying 9-year-olds. I mean, this is what you just let into your country. Complete obstruction to your law, impose Sharia law, right underneath the nose of the government, building neighborhoods that you cannot come in. You cannot police these areas. Unfortunately, I know we're talking about Europe, but this sounds like where America's going to, especially if this Mamdani character gets in anywhere near to any type of power. I mean, just looking at all this is just very staggering. And none of this is a rumor. This is all documented. So I want to say this clearly. I'm not against Arabs. And not every Arab is a terrorist. But most terrorists are Arabs. I'm just being honest. Not every Muslim is a terrorist, but most terrorists are Muslim. But we're not going to just lie and act as if there's not some pattern, or rather a spirit that follows a mass Islamic immigration from all these failed states. It's complete aggression, it's lawlessness, anti-Semitism, anti-woman, anti-West, anti-values. So then the question comes back to all of us, as we were discussing in the beginning, with this juxtaposition. When the Jews were the majority in these neighborhoods, and never majority in Georgia, the Jews have always been a small population, however, but when they were majority in these neighborhoods, what did you get? Synagogues, shul, schools, businesses, ultimately quiet streets. Maybe there was fresh challahs baking in the smell in the atmosphere. Learning you could probably hear down the street, but fairly quiet. Definitely when it comes to crime and violence, if they were not being attacked. Now, when you replace these same neighborhoods with Muslim refugees and they become the majority in those neighborhoods, what do you get? Knife attacks, fire bombs, no-go zones. France has over 751 zones. We just talked about this. But the police are afraid to enter into those places. Entire districts over there are ran by imams and not by the law of the land of which they are abiding in. And people ask this question, why does Europe look like this? The truth is, it's not hard to see. They traded the people who built for the people who want to burn. And that's what you're dealing with here. This should no longer be a question for any of you. I want to bring this all back home because it's a very important point I have to make. The same pattern that we're seeing right now is staring at us right now in the face in Israel. I think it was PBD that said in one of his recent podcasts, right? The whole discussion came up, about Israel and the Palestinians, or Israel and Hamas, and the war was going on. And one of the episodes, I can't remember which one it was. If I find it, I'll reference it down there. But Patrick McDavid said something along the lines of data, right? He's into data, right? The data was from his own personal observation. If he said something that rubbed Israelis the wrong way or rubbed Jews the wrong way, he'll get some messages. Patrick, can you look at this? Can you check this out? Can you look into this? Maybe this or that. Or people say, maybe his insurance company, hey, don't do business with these guys, or whatever the case is. Not nice. He said, but when he says something that offends Arabs or Muslims, the amount of death threats that he gets is staggering. And he said it's a major difference. There are many influencers today that the moment that they touched on Israel, the moment that they start speaking about Israel, anything, they've been able to see for themselves the amount that they are attacked online. People that are not Jewish. People that are not big Israeli supporters. There was one influencer, I forget his name. Fortunately, if I see it, then I'll put it in. If you're watching the video, I'll at least put his name in here. That, he talks about food. That's what he talks about. Talks about food from all different cultures, all different backgrounds. He's a foodie, and that's what he is, an influencer that talks about food. He was recently here in Israel, and he said that how did he know it was real? He knew that anti-Semitism was real the moment that he started talking about Israeli cultured food, or Sephardi food, which is a particular group of Jews that come from Sepharad, from Spain area, or maybe even from the Middle Eastern countries. But he started talking about these dishes. And he said immediately online he was attacked. This is a black man. Don't got nothing to do. Don't talk any politics. But the moment that he started talking about just Jewish food, he was attacked instantly online. Which is a case study for any of you. Oh, Israel's just claiming anti-Semitism. Post anything positive about a Jew, and you'll see how fast you're attacked. Anti-Semitism is real. It is real. So let's talk about data. Let's take everything we talked about up until now, and then let's look at the data of what's going on right now. Because I think we're going to understand what it is that Hashem, God, is saying to us in this generation. What he's saying to us specifically about this conflict and what it may have to do with all of our salvation. So let's bring it all back home. Let's follow this pattern of what we just looked at in Europe. We can even do this case study in America as well. We can see it anywhere it is. Where Jews go, they built up a place. Where Jews go, there's infrastructure, there's morality. Law-abiding citizens. Contrary to what you see with, Islamic jihadists, which unfortunately, mostly these Arab immigrants that come in to countries, it's complete opposite of what they do. So if we're being honest about here in Israel, before the 1960s, there was no such thing as a Palestinian. It just didn't exist. Go do this. And the problem with all of this is that it does not even take that much research. I'm just being honest with all of you. It does not take that much research for a person to go and see this. There was no such thing as a Palestinian. There were Arabs and there were Jews that lived in the territory of Palestine. You will not find a single dictator, a single leader, or any of that before the 1960s, 1967-ish. Yasser Arafat. But prior to that, who was the Palestinian leader? What was the national anthem? What was the flag? Give me a dish. Give me anything. Prior to that, it just didn't exist. So that is a reality. That is a fact. That's not me downplaying how people feel, how people may identify themselves. That is me just giving over an actual fact. Wait, I want to ask you, do you ever feel like you're alone? Maybe you live in a community, maybe you live outside the community, and maybe you're going through things that it's very hard for you to discuss with the people that are within your community. I mean, we all struggle from time to time with faith, with our belief in God, with our struggle and our walk and ups and downs, anxiety, depression, mental health, whatever it is, we all have struggles sometimes and we need somebody to talk to. So today is probably going to be your lucky day. The wait is officially over. Glory Nation is here today on the 21st anniversary of my wife and I walking this journey together. We are opening up the doors to something special. This online community hosted by Nas.io is a place where we go deep in faith, prayer, and personal growth. You'll get exclusive behind-the-scenes content, first listens before anything ever drops. You have Zoom hangouts with me, release parties, classes, merch drops, discounts on all of it. Whether you're walking strong or struggling to stand, Glory Nation is your home to grow. Join now. I can't wait to connect with all of you on a whole new level. Let's build this together. Glory Nation is live. So click on the link in my profile to join or go to glory-nation.com. Click join now and let's change the world together, beginning with ourselves. It wasn't a national movement. It was just a Palestine itself became a regional rejection of Jewish existence, just being here in the region. That's what it was formed as. It wasn't formed never to be a state, a sovereign state or a country for Arabs or for a group of Arabs that referred to themselves as Palestinians. It was just a regional rejection of a Jewish existence. That's all it was. And every time the Jews offered a desire to move into some type of peace treaty or some type of peace with its Arab neighbors, the Arab neighbors answered with blood, with terror, because that's what they do. And every time Israel gives land, as we're seeing today with Gaza, land that there were so many Jewish residents of Gaza exiled, uprooted from their homes in 2005. an attempt to begin to see what it would look like to have a Palestinian state. That's what Gaza was, an attempt at that. And we see that every time Israel gives land, they use it. The Arabs to launch rockets, to create more terrorist attacks. This was never about borders. This has always been about colonization, but not from who you keep saying it's from. It's been about destruction and completely overtaking the region, forming a crescent of Muslim countries all throughout the Middle East. But if it surely is not about borders, this is your side, this is my side, the Arabs never wanted to live in peace with the Jews here. It was never a part of the curriculum. Only to destroy the Jews from this region. And it's not about Gaza. It was never about it, and it's not about it now. Go look at the college campuses today. And I want you to really look at this. I'm telling you that the aggression is so bad that the whole entire world, it becomes contagious. That even in the West, the Westerners who support them, they also become violent. You ever see a pro-Palestinian or a pro-Israel like rally turn into a riot of just violence? Jews just throwing fire bombs and cocktails in London or Toronto. You know, I was in Toronto, I think it was maybe a year and a half ago or something like that. I was in between Toronto and Montreal. I was on a tour. And in between the time that I was there had been 2 Jewish schools that had been shot up already by Arabs. Thank God nobody was hurt. But I'm telling you that this stuff is spreading. It's all over the world. And we could use that data to look at what's going on in the region. Have you ever seen this at Jewish rallies? Do we do this? Do we do this when we go to countries? The answer is no. Because it's not in our culture. It's not who we are. It's not Torah. It's our whole culture is about self-control, of building and not breaking. There's a different set of values. And that's what I would hope everybody would see when they're looking at this. So Europe is getting what it deserves ultimately for what it did to the Jews. And this is in line with every single tyrant, every single country, every single regime throughout all the years that have sought to destroy the Jewish people or to cause harm. You know, Ted Cruz was in an interview not too long ago with Tucker Carlson. Everybody saw viral clips, and Ted Cruz, honestly, I love Ted Cruz, but he just didn't look good in that interview. I'm just being honest. He didn't look good in the interview, and it wasn't because of what he actually said. Maybe he could have been a little bit more prepared for it or whatever, but it wasn't because of what he actually said. He was actually saying the truth, and Tucker was actually just strawman arguments. It was very, very childish. Very, very childish. However, but he said something, and he wanted to quote the Bible, and he was obviously referring to the book of Genesis, and where Abraham was told from God that I will bless those who bless you, and I will curse those who curse you. And so Ted says that he'd rather be on the side of blessing, right? And then Tucker goes in to ask, oh, well, where does it say that? Where does it say that? I want to remind everybody that if you were under the illusion that that was only for Abraham, it says it again in the book of Numbers. Blessed are those who bless you, and cursed are those who curse you. It said that to the whole entire nation. I have a feeling that people won't realize it until they see it, till they actually physically see the demise of these countries, these regimes. And it's not about Jewish supremacy. It could be no further from that. It's about what God says is holy and what God says is his. Is not allowed to be rejected. It's not allowed to be skewed. It's not allowed to be moved, cut, divided, exiled. It's not allowed. You do not want to be on the other end of that. It's about God. It's not about the Jewish people. This is more about God. I really honestly feel people that have a disdain of Jews. I'm not talking about Israel. So don't conflate this with being critical of the Israeli government. I don't care what you do. I live in Israel, and sometimes I'm critical of the government here. But what I want to remind people is there's a very fine line. I said this not too long ago when I was on the Piers Morgan show. There's a very fine line. That, you know, all of a sudden when it comes to talking about Jews, or it comes up talking about Israel, it slides very, very fast on to the Jewish people. And then from there, all different type of hate and anti-Semitism comes out. So it's not really about, and what is the issue? The issue is this, and I honestly believe the issue is that God set aside the Jewish people to be his nation. He separated them from the rest of the nations of the earth in order to be a kingdom of priests, to be a light unto the nations. And not without failure. The Jewish people have failed. Anybody who was great has all failed all throughout the Bible. The Bible is the ultimate book of grace, and I'm referring to the Tanakh, to the Hebrew Bible, right, the Old Testament, where everybody messes up. Moses messes up. King David messes up. King David probably had the most failures, and is for sure the most beloved. He got the covenant with God, which was a deal of a lifetime. From you will always be the kings. From you will always be the dynasty. It's the ultimate story of grace. As that God said, I will forever be married to the Jewish people, no matter how far you've gone. My covenant is with you. Hey, what's going on? I had to stop you for a second because I want to tell you, if you like what you're hearing, and if you're getting value from what you're hearing, please like and subscribe to the channel. It helps us get this out there. And ultimately, you know what we're trying to do? Spread the name of God all throughout the world. So like and subscribe, hit the notification bell so that anytime I put out a video, you are going to be informed first. So unfortunately for Europe and for the others, the individuals, your days are numbered. And it's far bigger than going against the Jewish people. You are going against the God of Israel, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. There is no winning that. I think it was one of the, heard a line one time from one of the, I can't remember which contemporary rapper it was, one of the contemporary Christian rappers. I remember hearing him saying, he said that, you know, if it's you and your squad versus me and my God, you ain't gonna win that. You will not win that. So again, I'm not here to be politically correct. I'm here to be spiritually correct. Watch yourself. Europe doesn't need to fear the Jews. It does not need to fear the Jews. It needs to fear what happens when it chooses darkness over light. And again, this is not about race. This is about values. Same issue that we're having in the black community. I will address it in another podcast because I think it also needs to be addressed. What I'm speaking about right now is not about race. It's about values. It has to be a value system. And yes, I will say it. The Muslim and Arab world as a whole has not yet produced a system that can function healthily outside of its own bubble. It just has not produced it yet. The exceptions to the rules is maybe the UAE. Amazing place. I've been through Dubai a little bit here. So amazing place. So obviously I'm not talking about every single country. And we hope to normalize ties with other countries here in the region. But I mean, they'd even have to admit, many of the sheiks there from that I've met, it's not the norm. They're the tip of the spear, hopefully, of something good. And I know some people are going to say, oh, Nissim, you sound like you're a hater. It's just all hate coming from you. This is not hate. This is discernment. And a world that is drowning in moral confusion. Discernment is love. I genuinely care. I genuinely care. So my message to you, Europe, is that Europe, you must repent. You have to acknowledge what you did to the Jewish people. You have to acknowledge what you lost. I mean, these boycotting efforts from Ireland and the rhetoric coming out of France and Germany and all, I mean, you would think that there would be a different approach to what Europe does towards Israel, towards the Jewish people as a whole. The amount of blood that's on its hands. And I think very much so, this is why Hashem is allowing us to see in real time the fall of Europe. And at the same time, we don't even have to resort to violence. Statistically, remember I have all the statistics, I had them here somewhere, but statistically, all we have to do is let you live. Because that population that's coming in, the population that rejects you, rejects your values, rejects your law, they're having more kids. Right? Europe is becoming woke, just as woke as the left here left there in America, also here in Israel. So what happens is eventually everybody, they're either turning gay or they have, one kid and a dog. And those who oppose you and oppose your way of life, that will not continue your constitutions, will not continue with your value system, that abhor it, they will continue to have kids, 5, 6, 7 kids, to your one, or to your dog. And eventually they're going to take over the whole entire region. It's inevitable at this point, unless the value system changes, unless the way that we see what's actually happening underneath our nose. So again, my message to you, Europe, is to repent. Acknowledge what it is that you did and acknowledge what you lost. And hopefully you can figure out some way to rebuild what at least, the Jews brought to your region. And to Israel, I say stand firm. We should never trade the builders for the bombers, right? My friend had said one time, Israel's like the only country, shout out to Zach Grasher, he actually said that Israel's the only country, right, that hires all the people to build the buildings are the same people that want to tear it down. Same people that want to bomb the building down, the same people you have building. I mean, come on, we have to be smarter about this. Europe has to wake up. We all have to wake up. Again, you guys know me. I'm Nissim Black. This is Nissim Black Show. Thank you. Subscribe, share. Please do not be afraid to share the truth. Run towards the truth. Do not hide. Run towards the truth. Be faithful to God. Be faithful to who He's called you to be, who He's called us to be. Live life with discernment and fight for the truth. And again, as I always say, make sure to serve God or to live trying. I'm out.